Hello and welcome. I'm Lee Warren, and today we're talking about grief and Eros. When we were all children, we knew how to express our disappointment, our rage, our frustration, and our losses fully, cleanly, freely in the moment that they happened. This is sort of the blank slate that is the child as they emerge, right? Not so much that our personalities are blank or that our intention and purpose in life is blank, but that our emotions are just real and raw. There are no filters, right? And over time, we have learned to civilize and socialize, which is absolutely as it should be, except that we are not in a harmonious or intact culture that allows more mature or differentiated expressions of different emotions. We end up shutting down or repressing in ourselves what needs to flow freely. So I have talked a little bit before about the blessing of grief. And I'm going to introduce some principles here when working with grief. So the first one is that grief is a gift, right? It's a bit of a mentor to us. And we learn from those grief literate people, because there's very few of them in the world, that grief is feeding, nourishing life around us, not only in ourselves, but it's feeding the ancestors. My teacher, Soban Fusome, would specifically say that grief feeds ancestors. It feeds the water. It feeds everything that is life-giving. It is reverence for our existence. It is a doorway to our deeper depths. And it's a prayer of gratitude for our life and our love. And we're healing from cultural grief, ignorance, suppression, illiteracy, denial, avoidance. And we're really looking to bring curiosity into our process of learning how to grieve. And this principle, grief is a gift, is a really important one to start with. Another one that I've gotten from my teacher, also Soban Fusome, is that all grief is collective. The field of Eros, aliveness, much like the field of grief, is universal. And she would say there is no personal grief. Part of the reason we've lost our ability to grieve is that we've lost our connection to community. And when I have grief move through me, it is universal. Everyone has these same losses, disappointments, and grief and mourning in life. And if we can remember that no one grieves alone, we're not supposed to be alone when we grieve, then we can maybe see that our grief is for the collective. Principle 3 is that grief looks all kinds of ways. Some of us have big expressions, and we learn from that. Folks with big expressions are helping us and inspiring us all to learn how to move this energy and use our voice. Keeners and wailers used to be hired at funerals because, like a poet, they can teach us to bring us to our knees. They can help us know the right pitch, the right tone, the right feeling state for our hearts to open and for the tears to pour out. For those of us who are just gently tapping at the door of grief, we're learning from that too. All of us have locked rooms inside of us, and we're counting on you, the ones who are quietly knocking, to learn how to build a trusting relationship. What does that look like? To be curious and explore. The fourth principle is no forcing. It means having a cup of tea with grief. It means starting the conversation. It means learning how to witness, ask, be supportive to ourselves, to normalize it all. Can we learn from it all? Can we see that every expression on the spectrum is a grief worth grieving? How can I be tender to myself, right? Is principle 5, right? How can I hold my sorrow in its frozen place and maybe gently fall asleep with it? How can I allow one tear to be a celebration of moving grief? Maybe my grief looks like laughter at the cosmic joke of it all, or maybe it looks like the deepest expression of pain with big, heaving sobs. How can I be gentle and welcoming to all of it? Sometimes it actually looks like stillness. Another principle is that grief and Eros have a lot in common. They run the same pathways in the body. They both long for expression. They both can feel that quality of longing. They both have waves and patterns, right? Often when people are in deep, deep grief, you can see them rocking with the body, right? And that's the wave pattern. How can we learn to ride those waves? See another video about working with undulation. And as we get more literate and comfortable, maybe we can expand those waves and use dance and movement to really express our grief using life force, prana, chi. And how might grief feel different with different folks, different people who have different levels of literacy? What might some person bring out in me, a parent that's had a similar experience, that some different person might have a grief about something else that might bring something else out in me. And grief, like Eros, it's contagious. When we start to attract grief literate folks, we can learn to grieve together. Right? Another principle is to use the tools that we have, right? And many of us have learned to use tools from the trauma unwinding space. There's a tool called pendulation, finding those places within us that feel resourced and neutral and anchored, and then allowing the places that feel undone by grief to be balanced or counterpointed, anchoring in the resourced place and then allowing the grief to become unfettered and wild. There's also another word in the trauma healing space called titration, which is we do a little bit at a time. We don't try to grieve everything of our whole lifetime's worth of grief at once. We take this week's grief and we let those waves move through us. So please know that it's all an experiment, right? We are emerging from static, stagnant beings in the realms of grief to playing with them and trying them on. And I believe that one of our most important strands as we move into the next phase of our evolution as humans, as the expression of the highest levels of ourselves, is that we need to lean into these places of grief. And by doing so, we deepen and expand the collective nervous system, the literacy about how to be fluid in our bodies. We learn to remember and recreate group grief rituals, and then we teach each other. Because as we nourish ourselves through moving grief, we have more and more access to life force.